recently interviewed a local restaurant owner who says that the IRS swiped more than $33,000 out of her bank account. You say, what's going on here? The woman claims she didn't owe taxes and was not participating in any illegal activity. And after asking questions, she discovered that the feds took the money because she had made deposits that were under $10,000 at a time. IRS says the move designed to crack down on terrorists and drug traffickers by tracking their money, and unfortunately many business owners who fall victim to the practice give up after losing a long fight to try and get their money back. Again, in the Times, it went on to say the government can take the money without ever filing a single criminal complaint, and the owners are left to prove that they are in fact innocent. Went on to say that after it questioned the IRS and the policy, the IRS announced that it would curtail the practice, focusing instead on cases where the money is believed to have been acquired illegally or seizure is deemed justified by exceptional circumstances. Mark, it's nuts.
Well, I don't think the article is entirely accurate, to tell you the truth, because the article mentions a law that was passed in 2000, the Civil Asset Forfeiture Reform Act. And in fact, you can trigger the filing of a criminal complaint when you receive the administrative forfeiture notice from the government. You can elect to have it judicially determined, and then it will go into court. And contrary to what the article says, now, in the wake of that reform, the government has to prove that the funds are tainted by a preponderance of the evidence, a civil 51% standard. But beyond all the legal mumbo-jumbo, I mean, what you have in this case, in this story, is an unholy, almost a perfect storm of a government agency with famously suspect motives and a law that's rife with the potential for abuse. And whatever your politics are, the widely circulated story, how they were targeting Tea Partiers and Republicans, etc.
We can go back and forth on that.
Right, but yeah. The interesting part of this is there's a case in the Supreme Court this very term that involves what kind of showing, preliminary showing of bad faith on the IRS's part do you have to make to get a hearing to quash an IRS summons. So this is a very real story.
But what jumped out to me about the story was the recourse for the person who feels aggrieved, that this can just be withdrawn without even petition. And it speaks to me about the national letters. Remember what happened post 9/11? Which to me was, for anybody who knows, I'll try and paraphrase this, that if all of a sudden you're deemed somebody of interest, they don't have to have a warrant, they don't have to have a subpoena,
no individualized suspicion,
and basically they can go to your employer, they can go to your bank, and they can say, turn over everything you have on this guy, and if you tell him about that we're looking into him, you're going to be in deep trouble, your obstruction of justice, you're going to be in trouble. My only point is, where did due process come in? And my point is, shouldn't you at least have a chance to speak on your own behalf?
You do, but this is a government shakedown. I mean, this is an anti-structuring measure that's enacted to deter the evasion of currency reporting requirements, and in reality, it's used to fund government agencies. It's a revenue generating measure for the government. In the overwhelming majority of these cases, they take the money, you start negotiating with a tax or FBI agent, and you pay some penalty to get the money back, and it's free money for the government. And
you have to pay to get legitimate money back.
It just seems
a
reverse.
license to steal.
It's perverse, yeah, that's what it is.
This is, I think, a tougher debate, because I can understand both sides of this. It's, again, it has to do with privacy, and it's got the FBI seeing red. FBI Chief James Comey, he's asking Congress to act after Apple and Google decided to offer their customers encryption technology for their devices so that they could keep their data private. Encryption prevents police and the feds from cracking into phones, tablets, and other devices. We've just talked a second ago, Jimmy, on government overreach, but at the same time, you have companies designing software that will curtail law enforcement agencies from trying to have to be reactive, but maybe being proactive to certain crimes against national security. Where do you fall?
The companies are creating a device where I am generating data. It's my private data. That's it. It's my private data. You don't get to just get it because you want it.
Well, that underscores really the crux of the issue, the changing notions of what privacy is in the electronic age. Traditionally, as everybody at this table knows, except maybe Rich, once your information is in the hands of a third party, no, that's not to demean Rich.
It's already
it's a lawyer's idea. Once your information is in the hands of a third party, like a bank traditionally, you traditionally waive your privacy interest in that material. So the debate is, you know, every email message that you send goes through a third-party service provider like Google or Apple or whatever. The issue is, once it's in their hands, do you lose your expectation of privacy in the data?
I think also, you know, I don't think that Apple or Google are doing this with the intent to curtail or obstruct law enforcement. They're doing this to basically provide an extra measure of security and privacy to their clientele.
But you're Comey now, right? Don't you look at this as saying you're creating a barrier? You're making the presumption that we're going in for infringement of privacy rights when we're also looking at it from a national security.
Yeah, but the government, you know, I mean, look, let's not go down that road, because the government will never have enough. If the government had their say, there would be no such thing as privacy. The government would have open access to every citizen's and non-citizen's records, documents, whatever, just because that's what the government wants. It makes things easier for the government, but that doesn't make it right.
When people buy safes, they don't give the government the combination. The company that makes that safe doesn't say, hey, by the way, here, FBI, here's the combination.
Did you just come up with that? Or
That's
that's
good.
That's pretty good. That's a good one.
No, but the
I'm not going to know that. All right, I
safe
got to get
stays
this
in the
one.
house. It doesn't go into
I
a
can't
third
go a
party.
whole hour without saying Ebola. All right, so when we come back here, I'm going to talk about this. The nurse who treated Ebola patients in West Africa says her rights were violated when the state of Jersey put her in isolation tent at a local hospital, and now she's telling the folks in Maine here, either you overturn your quarantine law or tomorrow she's going to court. I'll ask the table what they think.